Hi, my friends. Welcome to another Bone Strong for Osteoporosis yoga workout. In this class, we're going to be focusing a lot on breath and awareness. Of course, our always focus is going to be on balance and stability. But what I want to talk about is the way that breath and even sort of a mantra or some kind of talking point can really help us quiet the mind and reduce one of the corrosive effects of bones, which is stress. So every week when we come into our yoga session, we're going to be doing some good for our bones anyway, just by reducing that stress and finding some quiet contemplation. So I'd like you to sit up tall in your spine and have your feet anchored on the ground, really lengthening up and feeling like your whole body is stacked. And then just place your hands in a comfortable position as we focus on an internal calm. So you might just kind of close your eyes here and create a nice setting that will allow us to flow through the rest of the practice. Let's go ahead and inhale as you're drawing air up through the base of your spine. You feel it coming towards your belly, right up into the lower ribs. And then exhale, moving it down the opposite direction. Good. Again, we're aiming for a roughly equal count of inhale and exhale. I want you to sense it as a flow, right? So never sort of this break or hold pattern, but a nice lift and lower. Let's try a few more of those. Inhale to lengthen, feel the air all the way up your spine. And then as you exhale, you'll feel the release of that and how it gently contracts your abdominals. Now, maybe we could add a mantra here. It's something that helps us really focus as we breathe. So you might say, inhale, I calm my body. Exhale, I smile. Inhale, I calm my body. Exhale, I smile. Inhale, calm. Exhale, smile. And whenever you feel a little bit of difficulty in the class today, maybe come back to that, take a break if you need to. You can always pause the recording and just wait till you're ready to catch up. And as always, if something doesn't feel good into your body, just leave it out and modify as you need to. Now let's slowly open the eyes and let's stretch the arms out into the sides. So inhale, bring that air now with the arms joining into the center. Exhale right down into your heart flow. And inhale, as we're reaching those arms out, we're trying to still stay really connected to the way the humeral head right into that glenohumeral joint, right? So we've been working on the last few weeks of that plug-in idea. So often we do just a little too much, and let's just find that sweet spot where it's just enough. And then go ahead and press your palms out and send the air away. So stretching that out. Let's do that a few more times, just kind of reversing that flow. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, push it out, still maintaining that nice plug-in of your arms. We'll do that one more time. We're going to reach out and still pushing down into the floor. And then allow that to soften there. Now, let's go back to that attention of how the arm should be in the arm socket. So most of us are very internally rotated in our arm. So we kind of live in this pinched position. I want to invite you to use your opposite hand to open that space. It's right there where your pectoralis muscles are. And you'll notice that it really holds your arm in place. Remember, the arm, the humerus, is the most mobile part of the body, but it's also very unstable. So we're sort of always seeking that opening and connection for stability. I'm just going to start to circle my arm back. I might turn my head in that direction. I'm first going to just really get that just enough position. Right? It doesn't have to be fully straight, it doesn't have to be a big movement, but I want it to be one that doesn't cause me strain. Inhale as I reach up, and exhale, looking back. And then let's just reverse that. Again, I'm just kind of setting that arm bone, feeling where it's not pinched, it's not strained in any way. Inhale, reach it up as we're just warming up the body. And release. One more. Reach, stretch, and open out. Now let's go to the other side. You might find really big differences between the two sides. I do sometimes. I'm going to maintain that really good posture. Remember, it's not so much about holding your shoulders back as it is opening your chest wall. So I'm going to find that just right place for this left arm now. And then as I gently plug that in, this is what I call shoulder cuff activation, we'll start to circle around. Feels a little tighter for me on this side, probably because I'm right-handed. I don't do as much with my left hand. So I'm just going to softly use my breath, find that plug in, and maybe take my range down just a little bit. We'll do one more in this direction. Inhale, I might look back like I did on the other side. And then let's reverse it. Let's bring it up, back, and around. Just feel that sweep. You'll notice how it starts to attach a little bit to the shoulder blade too, and that's a good thing, right? We want to move away from recruitment of the upper neck muscles and work towards more of those middle thorax muscles. Good. Now let's continue our focus on opening up through that chest wall. We're going to bring our fist into the center, so we'll get a little bit of resistance here into the wrist, and then we'll pull it apart. You'll feel the pec major now right under the bust line start to stretch and then reach that out. So we're just allowing the arm to move in all the planes of motion, kind of forward and back, side to side, even a little bit of rotation. And as I open this next time, I want to feel that nice plug in. So now I'm going to move towards those middle back muscles. These are our rhomboids, muscles that are right between the shoulder blades. Very important for good posture and also just releasing overworked neck muscles. All right, now let's slip the left hand underneath your hip. Make sure you feel that plug in because I could already sense the way mine was trying to round forward. Now I'm going to sweep my right arm up, take a nice little side bend. I want to make sure that I'm plugged in both arms, and then I'm just going to let my spine bend. So often we add a little bit too much flourish. Maybe we're doing the head dip or we're hiking the hip. We just really want to keep, sorry, my earbud is coming out. We really want to just keep that just right place. So I'm going to softly stretch over, pressing down into the bottom hand, and then slowly bring that back up. All right, let's switch hands now. So I'm going to place that right hand down, open up through the shoulder, feel that really good plug-in position. This time as I sweep my left arm up, and if I had any compromised position there, I could always take it behind my head, right? If you start feeling that's just too pinchy for me, just take the arm out of it. Try to just work your spine. So we're trying to sense where we can move, with fidelity, not too much, just enough. Yoga should teach us a sense of understanding your body as it moves in space. And then release that out. Okay, let's just do a little bit with the neck now. I'm going to just take my right hand to the side of my head. I'm going to use my left hand to just guide that shoulder down. And slowly, very gently, just allow some space to come between the ear and the arm. Nice breath there. Coming always back to that sense of moving with breath. It might feel nice to just look down towards the armpit, get a little lateral stretch across the sternocleidomastoid. Really tight muscles that do a lot for us during the day. And then I'll bring it back up and change sides. Okay, so drawing that right arm down. And now with my left hand, I'm just going to coax a little bit more opening to the left side. But I'm mindful of not dipping my head too far forward or collapsing the spine. Just nice ease here. Breathing in, breathing out. And then just drop that chin down towards your left armpit while maintaining that good alignment on the right side. Oh, I can definitely feel this side really needs some attention today. You may notice differences in yours as well. And then release that. Good, now let's interlace the hands behind the head. Give ourselves some nice traction across the neck. We know that we want to avoid flexion as much as possible. So The natural counterplay to that is extension, and here it is. But as I do this, I want to create this nice little hammock for my head. So really broad shoulders. I don't feel like I'm going too far, and never arching too low in the low back. Just give yourself a way to come into these movements gently and figuring out what's just right for you. Now, even though we do want to avoid flexion for the most part, we also want to stretch the neck flexors and the neck extensors. So we're just going to do a gentle chin drop here while creating that hammock on the back of the head. So it's with intention here, not just kind of rounding the back. It's really just about your cervical spine. And then bring that all the way back up. Okay, check that out a little bit. And let's move on to the legs. So let's just kind of feel your feet in space, lifting the toes, lifting the heels, just getting some openness there. Might be nice to just bring a block handy. I meant to tell you props that you'll want, a strap or a resistance band, a blanket, and a block. So I'm going to place my feet up there just because it gives me another bit of texture across my toes and my ankles. And I'm also trying to limit how much my knee does this work. I'd like to see that I can really get that flexibility and strength in the ankles rather than depending on the knees all the time. And go ahead and just circle it around the other way. So when we check into the feet, the hands, all of these extremities, we're setting up the foundation of strength for all of our yoga moves. Good. Now let's go ahead and just take it right into our first cobbler's pose. So we're spreading the toes here, bringing the heels together. Feel how nicely that wraps back into those hip rotators right near your sit bones. Then, because we're trying to get as many focal points of resistance, we'll take the hands to the outside. Remember to plug your arms in there and plug your hips in. So we're not gripping in the front of the hips. We're feeling that more in the back of the hip. Take a breath in, and as I'm pressing out with those thighs, I'm going to meet that pressure with my hands. Really feel how that turns the abs on right away. Breathing in, breathing out, and then release. You feel how your spine just kind of like, whoa, just kind of lets go because we don't really engage quite as much. So here is a good reminder that when we get that engagement, when we're pulling on the muscles that pull on the bones, they're really doing something good for our low bone density. I'm going to press out again. So I've got feet pressing down, heels pushing in, hands to the thighs, and thighs meeting back. Woo, it takes some work. We'll do one more. Take a breath in, get tall, and press out as you're feeling that resistance. Good, now let's go the opposite. So now let's bring the hands inside, still maintaining that openness across the arm bone, and then press in as we press out. So giving ourselves all these check-ins and release. As you're doing that, just don't hold your breath. Take a breath in, exhale, feel it flow even as you're strengthening. So those abdominals are working with the glutes, working with the hands. And release. One more time. Inhale, get tall. Exhale. And release. Good. Now I'm going to hinge forward, move that block out of the way. Now let's just get a little bit of attention to heel drops or, calcaneus movement. Remember that calcaneus is the main heel bone back there, is one of the best stimulants you can get for your hip bone. So we want to take some time every day to really change that resistance, charge it up, change the pace. But these are little things you can do both in standing and seated positions that are so beneficial for your bones. Okay, then I'm just going to scrape my toes towards the edge here, get a little bit of stretch across my tibialis anterior, and also get my toe bones working a little bit more. Okay, so I want to get fairly quickly into our standing work today, so I'm not going to do our band and resistance until the end. Let's go ahead and take a block between your inner thighs. Now, what this does is it allows me to feel a little bit of integrity of my movement. I know when I watch in class sometimes, many people have trouble not intentionally, but obviously they bring in their knees close in, and that's just kind of collapsing a little bit in your low back. So what I'd like you to do is feel your feet really grounded, okay? Feel the squeeze of that block. Now let's slide our hands under our sit bones so that we're really conscious of lifting up in a hip hinge, right? I don't want to round my back. I don't want to push off on my knees. So if you don't initially get up without that control, don't worry about it. We'll build on it. You can also take your hands to the chair. But see if you can lift up those sit bones, feel your feet into the floor, and nice open back. Take a breath and come up to a seated position. Wow, right away you feel that turn on in your butt. Now what I'm looking for is a nice right angle to my body. So it's not round here. I'm not moving from my pelvis. I'm really moving from the hips. And then kind of anything that I want to do with my arms here will be beneficial. But I'm just going to practice that plug-in, right? The sense of where is that just right place? So that when I open my arms out to the side, it doesn't feel pinchy. It just feels strong and liquid. Feel the feet in the floor, the reach, and then sit it back in that same hip hinge position. Now, you might take the block out, test yourself here to see if you can maintain that integrity of the legs here, like two train track positions, and then take your hands into the block here, and let's see how that feels for us. So we're pressing the hands in. You want to feel the plug in, see if you can lift up there and perch. So this is truly a chair pose. You can see it's sort of like you're sitting up over a porta potty, and we should be getting up and getting down from our chair positions in this hinge, like your upper back is like an ironing board. Take a moment now and just press the block forward. Feel your toes, all 10 toes grounded into the floor. The outer edges, the inner arch, they're all active for us here. And you can just feel as we go deeper and deeper into these standing movements, how much benefit this is doing in weight-bearing positions. And then we'll slowly come up. Whew, I already feel that. Okay, now if you've got anything around you, like a blanket, block, you're going to want to move that out of your way so that you're not going to have any trip hazards. So I'm going to move all those over here. Now, just to reinforce what we were doing, I want to help us practice that hip hinge from the side. So I'm going to take my chair. If you're working at home, make sure that your chair is always on a non-skid surface. I have 2 yoga mats going in cross pattern here because I think that feels really good and easy for me to move side to side, okay? Now, I'm gonna show you what this looks like at this side. Now, I'm somebody who has very mobile pelvis, and I can easily move forward and back from the pelvis. But your hip is where the femur bone comes into the acetabulum here. We want to get that plug in and stabilize the pelvis. So I'm going to start with a 3-point movement that I call it. I'm going to start with a soft bend of the knee, and then that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to continue to bend my knees. I'm going to draw my abs up and in so that I feel that stability around my pelvis. And as if I stuck a knife in soft butter right here at my hip crease, I'm going to move that back. Now, many of us have a temptation to kind of round and bring our turtle heads forward. Let's see if we can just keep that nice open position, draw your chin in and pause, right? You can rest your hands here on the chair for a little balance, but I think this is a great opportunity to really feel your feet, to really feel that plug in here where the femur bone draws into the hip. And then slowly come up, okay? All right, so we wanna think about doing that, not just in our yoga classes, but all through the week, whether you're bending over the dishwasher or you're brushing your teeth. Those are all chances for us to do it badly or to do it better. Okay, I'm going to use my chair here as I come into a little calf stretch. I'm always pressing the chair down. I don't want to pull it toward me. I'm going to step my right foot back a medium distance until I feel a stretch of about 5 on a 1 to 10 scale. Now, your soleus, the main deepest calf muscle that you have there, is often called the second heart because it has a direct connection to cardiovascular system. When it's tight, it can lead to shuffling, also can lead to cardiovascular problems, which is really, really scary. We don't want either one of those things. So we're going to stretch it with integrity. Now imagine that you have a zipper on your heel, like one of those cute little fall boots that have there. And I want you to try to lift the heel as if you're zipping that up into the back of your hip. It's very powerful. It's not about our knees, right? So as we're pressing that down, I know you can probably lift your hip the way you've always done, your heel, but can you do it in a way that really invites that whole back chain of your body to get involved? And it shuts off the knees, which are so over recruited. All right, now let's add a little balance challenge to that. I've got that heel lifted. I'm feeling both feet here really active all the way through. Now, if I need that chair, I'm going to take it, but I might just start to bring my arms forward, see if I can maintain that plug in. Now, as I stretch my right arm forward and maintain that plug in, I'm going to extend my left arm back, sensing right away that my brain and my body are trying to communicate with each other. Where is my balance? Where is my proprioception, my sense of where I am in space? Now, slowly, see if you can take that right arm out to the side while you train your drishti, your gaze point, on your thumb. You can really tell with that heel lifted how challenging it is to hold that position. So take your time, never rush these movements. And again, always coming back to that breath. I went a little too fast coming in. I could feel myself wobbling, but wobbling's not a bad thing. That's again another point of communication where the brain and the body are trying to talk to each other. And reach that down. Okay, let's change sides. So I'm going to bring my left foot back. Now, first thing I'm going to do is feel my feet. Feel the way they're trying to draw up. Imagine that your legs are these empty tubes and you're trying to really feel like you're filling it up with like water all the way up until it plugs in right at the back of the hip. It's a good visual image. It really helps you feel that plug in. And as before, it bypasses the knees. This isn't about the knees. It's about the foot to hip connection. All right, now I'm going to slowly lift that heel. I can definitely feel a difference on this side for myself. So I'm just being aware of that, moving slowly. And now I'm going to start to stretch my arms forward. I can feel my tendency to round here. So I'm going to bring my chin back, open my chest, feel the fingertips electric in there. Okay, now if you needed that hand on a chair, you absolutely take it because you should always make this yoga practice yours. But now I'm going to see if I can challenge my balance by looking at that thumb as I slowly keep moving that left arm away. So it's a small rotation of my trunk. I'm not moving my hips, trying to maintain that steady position. And if this is something that doesn't initially work for you, remember you could always modify and keep trying until you get it. Ooh, so much harder for me to stabilize on this side. So I'm respecting that. I'll use a modification if I need to, and slowly come back and release. Whew. All right, so now I'm going to take my hands here, see if I can keep that open chest position. I'm going to press back into another little chair position, checking to see that my abs are engaged, my hips are feeling their foundation from foot to the back of the bone. And breathing in, breathing out, feeling a nice centering here. And then using my feet to plug into the hips, I'm going to come back up flat as an ironing board. All right, now let's continue that balance for a moment with a tree pose. So what I want us to think about here is really getting that plug in. It's been our emphasis recently because I think it's such an important piece. We're thinking so many times about abdominal engagement, but we've missed the two main areas of stability, the arm and the hip. So as I step my right foot up on the chair, I'm mostly concentrating on my left leg, I'll call it the floor leg, okay? I know my tendency to kind of push into the back of the knee. So now I'm going to change that. I'm going to feel my foot grounded all around. So a lot of inner arch, which is something I don't typically do. I'm getting that idea of that tube, that empty tube. And I'm going to soften my knee so that when I start to press in, draw that energy up, I feel so much stability in the back of the hip. And I haven't even come to this chair leg. Now it's time to do that. I'm going to feel that foot and the way that plugs in. So I could literally stand here for an hour because I feel the foundation. It's hard. And I can feel that bone building in every breath. So I'm going to start with my hands together at the heart center. Make sure that my chest is open. My drishti, my gaze point, is going to those fingertips. And I'll take my time and maybe bring my gaze up challenging my balance, but if I'm fine where I am, I'm going to stay there. So those of you who've been doing this for a while, if you want to try a little bit of a lift of the back heel, that would be another way to challenge your balance. But respect your limits. Know that there's never any competition here. It's always about doing what's best for you. And then slowly come down. Very challenging. I hope you found that too. Okay, now I'm going to bring my left foot up, but first emphasis is going to be on that right leg. Again, I'm going to back off my tendencies, my knee lock, my overplay of my knee. Bend the knee, and I'm going to fill that tube up. So as I feel all the corners of the foot, suddenly I notice muscles paying attention that don't always for me. You know, I'm pretty strong and I'm pretty flexible, but we all have our favorite places, and that's generally avoiding the stuff that's weak. So as I'm really engaging this, I feel how my hamstrings and my glutes are turning on in ways they typically don't. Now with my left leg, I'm going to press that down. I'm really feeling almost like I'm screwing that in. It feels so powerful. It feels so strong. So maybe take the hands a little different. As you reach out there, can you still get that openness in the chest? Feel the fingertips spreading there. Good. And then just maybe bring the arms up. You can take the gaze up or not. And I'll just turn the palms down as I go. Now this time, if I add that releve or that lift on the back foot, get those plug-ins again. I caught myself trying to go into the back of the knee. Then see if we can do that very slowly, right? You never want to go too quickly with yoga or anything. That's where we're likely to get some imbalance. Pressing in, rising up. And just notice as you transfer more of that weight from your heel to the ball of the foot, can you not just go up on stiletto toes? Could you really feel the middle of your arch supporting that movement? It definitely feels stronger when you do that. And then slowly release. Whew, shake that out. Okay, let's get ourselves a little bit of a happy hip position here. When you do a lot of strength and stamina on that, it's nice to come back and change it up just a bit. Okay, now I'm going to take that balance one more step, okay, and I'm going to go into warrior 3. And what we want to do here is think about that hip hinge, so a small bend of the knee, abs lift up, hips go back. I'm going to take my hands to the side of the chair, noticing how often I want to round and plug in again. Okay, now I'm going to step my right foot back, and it's almost as if I have a little bit of a running start here, but my focus is going to be on that front leg because that's the one that's going to really have to hold me up. I don't want to push off that knee. I want to fill that tube up. So from the foot all the way up to the back of the hip. Don't put the pressure in your hands. See if you can get that plug in of the arms, plug in of the legs, and then lift up into that left leg. Ooh, it's so powerful in that side hip, and I can feel how it's drawing me more to the center. Okay, so now with my back leg, I'm going to press that out. Again, I don't want to push through the knee. I want to feel the heel to the hip. Don't go higher than the hip. That was not necessary because as we're keeping this flat back position or our hinge, we want to maintain that throughout. Now you could do other things here, right? You could stretch your left arm forward, get that plug in. So these are always some ways that you can challenge and strengthen that, but feel free to just stay with that very basic pose, which is hard enough. As you step that right foot back, let's go behind that left leg a little bit. You're still hinging, but once you sit over into that left hip a little bit, it's going to challenge into the IT band, kind of an area of the hip that gets really pinchy for a lot of people. It's also just a nice way to reinforce some weight bearing on that side. And then let's change it up. So now our right foot's forward, our left foot is back. Find your feet. That seems easy, but really sense them. Know where they are. Spread your toes. Feel the energy of that leg all the way up the hip. Okay, now I'm going to have you press into that foot, plug it up to the back of the hip, bypassing the knees tendency, and notice how that keeps you from sagging to the side. You're feeling level here, like you could balance a tray of drinks on your backside, and then you're going to press back through that heel, lengthen it out. Keep the neck and shoulders nice and open and long. And if you feel like it, extend that right arm, but don't go too far. Try to really feel the fingertips now alight into the humeral head. And breathe. Try to relax the tension. Never want to hold on. You're trying to feel it as a flow. And as you step that left foot back, go ahead and sink it back towards the left side, the right side now. Keep your shoulders square and feel free to bend the knees just a bit so you can really emphasize that foot to hip connection. And then take our time, hinging back up, flat back. Okay, let's come into some warrior moves now. I'm just going to move my chair with the bottom facing away, and I'm going to step back so that I can get a nice medium-sized stretch. Now the chair's there if you need to use it. If you don't, just leave it in front. All right, let's find a foot pattern again. Feet, drawing the energy into the hips. So from the beginning, you feel this really great integrity of your poses. Now, think about your spine. Is it stacking? Is it really tall instead of rounding or collapsed or arched? All the things we do, not intentionally. So as you're starting to feel that really beautiful movement, you want to feel how it grounds and then reaches, what I call kind of rooting and reaching up. Let's just take a simple position here, fingertips to the center. You can feel the way the wrists plug in and how that stresses the wrist. It's a common point of fracture when we have low bone density. I might just take the hands up as I breathe from the feet to the head and reaching that up, because this is actually a back bend. You know, Virabhadrasana 1 is really meant to be a bit of a back bend. So I might encourage you to just take your hands to the back of your head here and give yourself that nice framing of your hammock. Now reaching down into the feet, plugging into the hips, lifting that spine, and then just ever so gently with a nice long arc. See if you can come into a gentle upper back bend. And you notice we hold most of these poses for 5 to 8 breaths because we're trying to build stamina. That's where you're going to get the most benefit for your bones. Now release the hands and let's go ahead and straighten that front leg. I'm going to step my back one in just about 6 inches to shorten that stance. Here we come into pyramid pose. I want to feel where that butter knife is right there, nice long back. I'm just going to reach my hands around. I'm going to take my right hand on the bottom of the left. Press the hands at the small of the back, look up and lengthen. And with mostly straight legs, I'm hinging forward. It's as if I'm sort of catapulting my head away from my hips. And then I get this navigation that's going to happen in my legs. So I'm feeling on that right outer hip how it's plugging, drawing back, and the left back hip is drawing forward. And then again, it gets you in that just right place where you feel like you can keep it nice and open, making sure that your turtle head isn't trying to get there too quickly because we want to avoid rounding in the upper thorax. Now, take your left hand to the chair, keeping the hips centered. This is a very small movement. This is your revolving triangle pose. You're going to reach that right arm up, press down onto the bottom arm, and just circle through your trunk and arm. Keep the feet actively playing here, plugging into the hips. So we want to avoid doing much rotation, especially if you're coming in multiple directions. That's contraindicated for osteoporosis, but this single rotation here is actually very good for our bodies. We need to do this through the day, so we want to make sure that we're feeling it here. And then we'll come back and change sides. All right, so step again, that little bit longer stride for our warrior 1. I want to make sure that my hips are squared. So you're thinking about the movement coming from the femur. So in the right leg, for example, I know that I could easily sort of jam my pelvis forward, but I want to feel that plug in from the back. Same thing with this front leg. So it's really plugged in. I've got that nice open pelvis. And I might change my arm position here. I'm taking it into a little bit of a cactus arm. Remember what that felt like in your rhomboids. So I'm going to open that up, plug it in. Here, I'm really conscious of the way the fingers, just like the toes do to the hips, the fingers help me alight into those arm bones. It keeps me aware of not bracing, but instead kind of feeling myself is very secure here, that just right position. Now, unlike the first warm-ups we did in standing where the heel was raised, this heel is down, right? And you can feel how that just draws much more stability into our hips. Now, I could take my hands behind the head for a little back bend here, but I'm going to try to do it with my spine, right? And just sense if I can lengthen up, almost like I'm bringing kind of a ski slope back and stretching. And that just feels really magic in my neck and shoulders. I can take a little smile here, remind myself to breathe in. I calm my body. Breathe out. I smile. As I come out, I'm going to step that back foot in just a little bit, shorten my stance. Now sweeping my hands back, I'm going to bring my left hand on the bottom to balance it out. You could also interlace your hands here if that felt better to you. Now press in to really get that integrity of the arm position open through the chest. Look up and lengthen. And remember, you're moving from the hip where the leg bone meets the hip socket. And then when you meet your intelligent edge, I call it, you want to stop and stay with that movement to feel your legs. So with my left hip, I'm feeling the way that's steering my hip back just a little bit. And with my right hip, I'm kind of steering it forward. So it meets in this perfect spot that alights it with strength. And if you feel like yourself kind of melting a little bit, as long as that's not coming from upper body, but that you're feeling more of your leg strength, allowing your spine to fold and hinge, and then you just wait it out a little bit. But remember, there's no place you have to be. It's always about you and your yoga practice. Now, slowly coming up, using the strength of the legs to get us there. Let's go ahead and just take the right hand to the chair. Still want to square, still hinging. With that position, I'm going to lift my left arm up and just feel that flow coming through. Mostly straight leg here, but you can have a little bit of bend. Now, caught myself trying to lock my knees again, so I'm going back and to remind myself to get that hip cup activation. And release. Oof, challenging. Okay, so let's take a moment and just step up there. Wish I'd brought some water down, but I didn't. Again, move the chair if you need to. Let's take some side warrior positions now. All right, so we're going to take ourselves into about the width of the mat. And in my case, it's going vertical. Now, I want you to think about this, again, is hip movement, not your pelvis. So I'm feeling the way this leg bone rotates out. So this is my right leg, it's turning out. And my left leg, I want it to rotate in. Now, the wider my legs are, actually the easier this is. What I just want to make sure you don't do is move your spine in relation to that. It's not about pushing off in your knees. So as I'm open those legs out, this is just where my flexibility is going to allow me to be. But I'm trying to keep that pelvis centered so that it's the legs that are getting the turn out. Okay, now with my arms, I'm going to stretch out, still maintaining that plug-in we've been working on. Check in here to that front leg. I just caught myself kind of bracing that knee. Rather, I want to feel my foot pattern and the way that's just helping me anchor into my underbutt. That sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? Stretch it out there. Your palms up, palms down. Feel the back leg too. It's in that plug-in position. Now, reach that out there. Remember, Virabhadrasana 2 translates roughly from Sanskrit into courageous, nice person. I really like that idea. Now, my left hand is going to the back of my hip. My right hand's coming up. I'm taking that reverse warrior. Nothing's changed in the legs. In fact, in quite much more intensity here as I'm working this back. But I also get this delicious relief across my obliques, across my lats. I think most of us really love this pose. As I flow back, my transition will be warrior two. Notice how I'm still in this same alignment. So my legs are building from this stamina. Now I'm coming into side angle pose. So I'm going to drop that hand down to the inner thigh. I don't want to collapse on that. I'm just using it as a kind of a bracing tool. Bracing is probably not what I want to say. Just an anchoring, right? Just a sense that, okay, here's my stability. Then with my left arm, working from the left heel, I'm going to reach that across and see if I can extend the arm without losing my plug in. So instead, could I get more space in the spine? Yes, I can. If I anchor down through the leg and try to feel that stretch, but from those plug-in positions, then I'm really a lot more stable. I can look up at that hand. If that bothers my neck in any way, I can look down at the foot. Now, can you kind of lift up from that bottom arm? Yeah, so it's not really needed there. We never want to collapse on it. We're always building that leg power. And then as I come back up, I'm going to pivot to go to the other side. I know you can feel that heat churning through your body. I certainly do. Okay, so now with the pivot position, again, I'm going to return to heels on the same line, like there's a broomstick right there. And I know my tendency of the pelvis to take over for the hip, so I'm going to rotate that in a little bit and feel it plug in. Opposite leg, stretching, opening, and then I'm going to stretch my arms out. Here's my warrior two. Check in that your spine is right on top of that pelvis. Your head, your chin are really engaged. And then go back to your foot pattern. What's happening there? Where do you feel the emphasis? I hope you're feeling that foot to hip bypassing the knee joint. From there, we'll take it to reverse warrior, reach up, plug in, and try to get space in your spine. Always coming back to that deep ujjayi or sound breathing. Hard for me to breathe today. I got a little congestion going on. So I can always open my mouth. All right, back to warrior two. Stretch the arms out, feel the plug in, feel the possibilities of this movement. And now we'll just take that left hand down to the inner thigh. From that right heel to that right hand, I'm sweeping, I'm stretching, but I'm maintaining those plug in positions. Know where your tendencies are, back them off, and try it anew. Try to feel this as a greater strength, more awareness of where the stable bases are, so we can work those, we can get them even stronger. And that's going to help us with everything in our lives. And then slowly bring that back. Oof, feeling that. All right, now let's transition down to some floor work. I'm going to adjust the camera here just a little bit. Make sure you can see. All right, now I'm going to step back, and this is a good opportunity to practice a bit of a hip hinge, but I'm going to bring that down in a nice right angle. Now, many of us have some tenderness in the knees. I understand that. I'm among you. So I'm just going to bring a blanket. You could just bring another yoga pad or something, whatever you might need. All right, now I want us to always work on upper body strength with lower body strength. So this is a kind of a modified push-up position. You're going to first feel your hands on the side as we did for that warrior three position. This is also something that's called spinal balance if you did it, just one leg at a time. First thing, let's check into the arms. We know our collapsing points right here. Can you feel the way your hands draw into those arm bones? Tougher here, much more unstable than our legs. So we want to make sure we've got that without tension. Don't want to feel wrist pain. Now I'm going to stretch one leg back, and I'm going to get that plug-in position. It's going to be tempting to overplay my arms here. So as I start to lift my left leg, I'm going to shoot my shoulders forward over the wrist, and then I'm going to plug that in. So I'm going to feel the foot to hip, plug that in, feel the abs drawing up and in, and the head nicely in line. Now, what could you do if you can't quite get up there? Well, let's just do a modified half plank. Still plugging in here, and I'm going to keep my knees down this time, but I'm going to hinge forward. So I'm going to need a little bit of a bend of the arm, but still not rounding. And I'm trying to bring that shape of an ironing board forward. Notice how I wanted to go there and collapse. Instead, I'm going to feel my arms plug in. Okay, so whatever one of those was best for you, let's do one more. I'm going to plug my arms in. This time I'll lead with my left leg just to vary things out. Okay? And then I'm going to plug the arms in, plug my hip in, and see if I can lift the other. So with my feet, I'm feeling them engage right up into that underbutt, bringing my shoulders over my wrist, and just feel all that energy across the upper back. So I'm not winging, I'm just strong. And you can feel the wrist power, the hip power, and definitely your core power. Oof, and come on down. Okay, now let's go ahead and move that chair out of the way. I want to do a little bit here on the mat. So many people have told me recently, please don't have us come into extension on our bellies. I feel it after I've eaten dinner, or, it's just stuffs the chest. So I understand that, and I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable. Often I will do cobra or other poses there because it's so good to get upper thoracic opening. But we can do that if it's uncomfortable for you to be down on the mat. Let's see if you can do it here, maybe from a kneeling position or sitting up. And we have practiced this already, but imagine that you are pushing off of a wall. If you've got one, I'll recommend it. You can also do extension here, where you're trying to feel like your hands are plugging in, and you're lifting and stretching and bringing your spine into a reverse curve. So if being on your stomach does not feel good to you, just do it like this, or come into a standing position against the wall. But for our sake today, I would like to try to do a couple of cobras. I think it's very important for us. So as we're coming down, I want to feel the legs stretching out, and I want to feel the hands reaching and plugging in. So I like to bring, earbud came out. I like to bring my fingertips are right about chin height. Taking the tops of my feet down, I'm going to plug the arms in. And then as I inhale, I'm just going to slowly try to march my spine out tall. I want to stabilize through the lumbar spine and work primarily through my thoracic spine, because that's where most of us are tight. Now, get the idea here as you're pressing that down, that you're sort of stretching your sit bones away from your head, and then feeling the top of the feet down to help you stabilize. Then gently draw your abs up and in, and move that out. If you want to vary where your fingertips are here, or even take your hands wider with fingertips in, all of those are acceptable as you're starting to build that stretch. Now, let's bring your right forearm down here. And what I'd like you to do is use your left hand. We're going to kind of gently roll over like a piece of carpet. So you're going to press down, and you're going to stretch through the side body. This is a really wonderful way to work on your side obliques, your side hips, and it actually asks for some balance here. Now, I can see that my shoulder is not really aligned, so I'm going to make sure that that plugs in well. And I'm getting my plug-ins, my hands to the arm, my feet to the hip. Now I can make this a little bit more challenging by taking one arm up and taking the top leg up. But those are just options. If you're happy here, you can just keep the legs stacked, keep the arms stacked. Feels really good to the body. Research shows that side planking, side positions like this are some of the most effective ways to strengthen your abs. And I'm just going to roll over, and I'll try the other side. So I'm going to bring the left forearm in, stack my legs tall, use that right arm now to roll myself over. So I'm trying to align my heels on top of each other. Then I'm going to check if I plug in of my arm. So I'm not collapsing. I feel that energy from a hand all the way up to the arm bone. Again, your modifications here could be length, stretch, really yummy opening, and coming back. All right, now let's come down onto our backs. And I'm going to use my blanket just under my head. I don't want a super elevated position, just something that feels like I can rest naturally. And let's just get a resistance band. So as I'm coming down, I might want a little bit more than that. Yeah, that feels just right. Okie doke. So let's work our foot and hamstrings here a little bit. So I'm going to take that band nice and fat around the vamp of my right foot. Now, if I'm establishing the hamstring connection, that can't come from my knee and it can't come from my front of my hip. Your hamstring is here. It inserts right there at the base of your hip and runs down your leg. So I'm going to take my two sides of my strap here. I'm going to anchor that right butt cheek, and I'm going to give myself a couple of times to slowly find that sort of zipper effect of your boot there that I was metaphoring, and see if you can get that plug in at the back of your hip. It is not necessary to straighten your leg. It is not necessary to bring your leg high. You're trying to find where is that hip cuff activation. Now, for me, I feel a lot of kind of wiggling here. That's because I'm super hypermobile. And I often don't feel a good stretch because I am always kind of pushing to my extremes. When I do this kind of hamstring stretch, I definitely feel some activation there. It's so much more stable. It's like what my body's been looking for my whole life. Now I'm going to stretch my left leg out now. I want to get that plug in. Again, not from the knee, foot to hip. And then let's practice a little bit of work through the abs. I'll take a breath in. I'm listening to my body, maintaining that hip plug, and then I'm going to lower down to my point of control. If you're doing this correctly, you should feel your abs right away. It's almost more easy, I think, if you do it this way because you're not depending on your abs to work alone. Slowly lowering down, I'm feeling that resistance through the foot. Feels kind of amazing, actually. And then I'm going to bring it up. Inhale and exhale. Reach, stretch, and open. Gosh, that feels good in my body. All right, now I'm going to take the bands into my right hand. With my left hand, I'm going to secure that hip. And I'm feeling that femur bone rotate. It's like a spoon in a coffee cup. I know that my leg can get out there far further than I have the stability to maintain it. So I'm going to keep that left hip down and only go out as far as I can keep my shoulders down to keep my leg plugged in, which is not as far as I'm capable, but is as far as I can control. Now, as I internally rotate, I'm going to bring that leg across. Now I feel that IT band stretch again. But notice how I went low before I went over, so make sure that I'm not torquing that in my low back. That would definitely not be helpful. And it's a marvelous stretch. All right, let's come back. Let's change sides. So now I'm going to wrap that around my left foot and get my plug-ins. All right, so where is that? Butt heavy, feeling the way the heel drives to that under butt, right? I need to know where my hamstring is and how to strengthen and stretch it. You can always do this a couple of times just to make sure your knee is not doing the work. Press up, stretch, see if you can really feel that integrity. Wow, that is so challenging for me, but I love it. And I know that I've been doing it incorrectly for much of my life just because I could. Right, now I'm going to take that right leg out and I'm going to try to feel it plugged in. Very challenging. I can feel how my knee wants to do it. Take an inhale with those plug-in points and exhale, lower down to my point of control. Where is just enough? I don't feel any stress in my back. I feel a lot of plug into the glutes and to the core. And then I'm going to bring it up. Inhale and exhale. Try it again. Try to feel the shoulders softening down the back. So no tension, just a nice bit of work from my body all the way through. And then last one, inhale, reach up, plug it in. Exhale, lower down. Feel that really good pelvic stability that you're demanding right here. And then let's bring it up. So now I'm going to take the bands into my left hand. With my right hand, I'm going to just plaster that hip down. I know how much it likes to move, and I really want to keep it secure. So as I turn that out, I can just sense how I'm just trying to get over there. So I'm going to pause, give it a breath, let it happen. Some of the most important work we can do in yoga is learning to yield rather than to effort everything. One of the things that has really helped me stay with yoga, knowing how much I need to learn to let go. And then I'm going to cross it over. Use my opposite hand to bring it in. And stretch back the other way. Feels so good. I'm starting to sense the way my body is just wanting to really infuse this yoga practice. And then I'm going to take that off. Okay, now as I start to get ready for my cool down, I like to give myself often a little bit of a gentle twist. So I think a windshield wiper is such a nice place to do that. So I'm going to take my feet as wide as the mat, let the knees fold into the center, and let's just open the arms nicely. Your choice, whether palms up or palms down. As you start to drift your legs over to the right side, just allow the left hip to stretch very long, almost like that piece of carpet imagery we were talking about before. And you might just keep your head where it is. You can look over to either side. Feel again the feet, the way that as you flex them gently, you turn on the back of the hip. Powerful work through the glutes. And it's a way to transition from more active positions in yoga to the more subtle poses as we get into our cool down. And then let's bring that back. Fold the knees in like you're making a lean-to in a campground. And then just slowly drift over to the other side. So I'm leading all along the length of my hip, not the back. And that keeps it safe. We don't have any torque. Now, could you feel just the lengthening of your spine here? From the arms, from the legs, and how much you've learned to decompress just in this short time together. And then come back into center. And go ahead and just stretch your legs out here. Stretch the arms out. So as we prepare for Shavasana, our final relaxation, it sometimes takes a minute to allow yourself to find this ease. So as I close my eyes, I'm just kind of tuning in to my subtle body. And I'm going to do an internal scan, starting with my head, around the jaw and the ears, and just seeing if there's any place that I need to let go. And I might travel down to my neck and shoulders, out to my arms and fingertips. See if there's any hold still there. Inhale. As I exhale, I'm traveling down to my rib cage, toward my belly and my pelvis, and trying to let things just sink into the earth. Inhale. As I exhale, I'm just noticing my legs, noticing my ankles and my toes. Where can I let go? And we'll stay here for a few minutes, allowing yourself to just really feel the transformation of our yoga practice. I'll call you back in a few minutes. So ideally, it would be nice to spend 10 to 15 minutes in Shavasana. I invite you to do that whenever you can. Just for the sake of this class and bringing some closure to it, we'll come back and just start to feel the fingertips and ankles, the wrists, and maybe this head moving side to side. And let's just cross the right leg over the left and reach for the right wrist with the left hand. Just take ourselves into a nice banana shape here, leaning to the left. Just feel the way the plug-ins are inviting back to us to stretch with integrity. One deep breath here. Oh, let it go. And let's just walk it over to the other side. So left foot over the right, reaching for that left wrist, just giving my body that whole body yawn. And then I'm going to let that go. Go ahead and just roll over to that right side. Stack your knees and stack your hands under your head. Make a little pillow of support. Giving yourself this generous transition here. Just feel yourself moving from deep relaxation back into your regular world. And as you're ready, use your left hand. Go ahead and press yourself back up into a seated position. I'm just going to use the blanket to elevate my hips a little bit, make sure they're not tight in any way. And let's come in to the pose here, where it's time to synthesize everything that's happened. So invite your hands into your heart center and remind yourself of that breath and that calm as we seal our practice. With eyes open or closed, inhale, I calm my body. Exhale, I smile. Inhale, I calm my body. Exhale, I smile. Inhale, calm. Exhale, smile. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. From my heart to yours, I bow to your radiance. Namaste.